Hi everybody, Dr. Khan here from OKC Fertility, and today I just wanted to talk a little bit about ovulation. How do I know if I'm ovulating and how do I know when I'm ovulating are probably two of the absolute most common questions that I get, and there's lots of answers and some are complicated and some are very simple. I talked about this a little bit in one of my previous videos, but it kind of got scrunched and a little jumbly at the end. So I just wanted to clarify a little bit. So how do I know if I'm ovulating? So there's actually a lot of different ways. Like I mentioned, the easiest, most simple way is, do I have regular periods that are falling usually somewhere between 24 and 35 days from the start of one period to the start of the next period? If you have regular periods, and especially if you have symptoms that let you know that your period is coming, so things like breast tenderness, bloating, moodiness, sleep disruption, other kind of GI disturbances. If you have any of those symptoms a couple of days before your period to where you're just like, oh, I know my cycle's gonna start soon. That coupled with regular cycles is a pretty surefire way of knowing that you're ovulating in there. If you don't have regular periods, you probably aren't ovulating, but if you do, then you probably are. So that's like the simplest answer. There are many, many other ways. So things like basal body temperature charting. So tracking your temperature every morning, and then when you see a clear increase in your temperature, that's usually a good sign that you ovulated, because your progesterone starts to go up, and progesterone is a thermogenic hormone, so it makes us a little bit warmer. So that's another way. A blood test to actually measure your progesterone levels later in the cycle, so like cycle day 21. That's another really good way to know that you're ovulating. And then, of course, ovulation predictor kits. And I'll do like a whole nother talk on ovulation predictor kits later, but ovulation predictor kits are another way. And these obviously all tell us that we're ovulating, but we really need that extra piece of information of when am I ovulating? And that's where some of the tests, may not help us all the time. Obviously, having a regular period and knowing that you're ovulating is helpful, but it doesn't really help you pinpoint exactly when you're ovulating. And that really goes the same for basal body temperature charting and for a day 21 progesterone. Those are telling you after the fact that you've ovulated. And so ovulation predictor kits can be much more helpful because they're telling you in a little bit more real time. One thing, my own little soapbox about ovulation predictor kits, is that a lot of times what happens is people start testing, and what they're waiting for is like the indication that they're like at their peak hormone level for ovulation. And so they're waiting for the strongest line or the strongest non-blinking smiley face. One concern that I sometimes have with that is that it might be getting you that information a little bit late, because what happens is when you're ovulating, that LH level usually starts at its highest like in the very, very early hours of the morning. And so that's why we often tell you to test that, first or second morning's urine. But that has to be after it peaks. The hormone comes from your brain, it gets to your ovary, it peaks in your blood, your kidneys have to filter it, it has to collect in the urine, and then it has to come out. So there's actually like that delay of when that hormone is the highest and when you actually get the strongest positive, and then also when you can actually do something about it, right? Like, people have jobs. You can't just drop what you're doing and everybody be available to try right then. So that's like my own little concern sometimes with ovulation predictor kits and the way people use them. And so a lot of times what I would say is, if you know that you have a 28-day cycle, then most likely you're ovulating around day 14. If you have a 30-day cycle, it's really probably 16. And the reason we think that is because the luteal phase, or the second half of the cycle, is usually largely very conserved. It's very consistent at that 14 days. And so we guess, educated guess, that with a 28-day cycle, you're ovulating around day 14. And so what I like is I really counsel people that I like the sperm to be waiting for the egg. The sperm can last a lot longer. The egg really only has like a max of 24 hours, and probably really good hours is less than that. And so you really want the sperm to be waiting for the egg. And so since we don't know exactly when we're ovulating, even when we're using ovulation predictor kits, we don't know exactly when, even in that whole peak and fall of the hormone, the egg is actually coming out. I like to tell people just to try to have themselves be sort of covered. And what I mean by that is, if you think you're going to ovulate around day 14, what I say is start trying early. So like cycle day 11 or 12, start trying at home and try every other day. That should be, infrequent enough to let the guy build back up again. And then keep on trying every other day if possible until, cycle day 16 or 18. And you can adjust that obviously based on the length of your cycles and when you think you're ovulating. But sometimes I think that waiting till that test gives you like the super peak hormone and then trying that night or the next day, it may be a little bit too late. And so it's not a bad idea to say, okay, I think I'm coming up on my peak day in like 2 days. Let's just try today and then we'll try then too. So you just know that you have sperm kind of waiting there for all the different times that the egg can come out, because the sperm can last a lot longer, probably 48 to 72 hours. So hopefully that helps and just kind of clarifies the last section that I did on that. And of course, if you have questions, just reach out to us, and you can always contact us at okcfertility.com, and follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. We look forward to meeting and doing our best to help everybody. All right, thanks guys. See you soon.